Hi, are you somebody who's desperate to improve their life? You want growth, you want to achieve your goals, yet you are scared to step outside your comfort zone. If this is you, then do stay tuned. Hi, I'm Donnie Malik. Thank you so much for tuning in to my channel, a channel which aims to provide you with tools, techniques around self-development, self-empowerment and transformational goals. This is through me sharing my wisdom from my personal experiences and also from my corporate working life, as well as my philanthropic work as well. So do stay tuned right through to the end, because I'm going to be sharing with you some techniques on how we can actually start getting out of our comfort zone and getting us continuing on our self-development and transformational journey. So that being said, every single one of us has a comfort zone, whether it's myself, your partner, your family, your children, your parents, whoever. We all have our own bespoke individual comfort zone, and that is only going to be known to us in terms of how we can best handle that. And the importance of stepping outside that is where we can potentially take greater risks, which results in greater learning, which results in greater wisdom. So it all helps as stepping stones towards that self-development journey that we're on. And as the name comfort zone suggests, from a neurological perspective, what we're very comfortable with is because they're lessons that we have learned over time. Everything that is in our comfort zone becomes second nature to us. So from a brain perspective, all the experiences that come from that are just very positive or very mild experiences. But having said that, your life can almost become very mundane and stagnant if you're not willing to start stepping outside your comfort zone. And what will happen really is, if you ask yourself, do you have any dreams and goals? Then if you haven't achieved them yet, the chances are it's because you haven't taken that leap of faith and started to step outside your comfort zone. So what zones are there outside of your comfort zone, and which are going to be sort of the good zones you need to be in versus the not so good that you need to try and avoid? Let's move on to that, shall we? So this is your comfort zone. Imagine this is your comfort zone here. Now, at the other extreme is what is known as the zone of destructive anxiety. So it's the opposite polarization of comfort versus destruction. What does the zone of destructive anxiety mean? This is the type of anxiety where you may be in a role or in a project or in some circumstance, even on a personal level, maybe with a bad relationship. Basically, you're out of your depth. You're really kind of in that sink or swim position. You're really struggling to keep your head above water. All you can ever focus on is this one thing. It's what I like to term as the level of anxiety that keeps you awake all night, and what in its worst case scenario that it could do, because you're so absorbed in focusing on it and you're getting so stressed over it, apart from the health implications that can happen from it, you are also potentially clouding your judgment in making sound decisions. So that's why when it comes to our comfort zone and stepping outside it, we really don't want to go as extreme as heading towards the zone of destructive anxiety. So what is really our ideal zone that we need to be in order for growth to take place, and also for us to step outside of our fears a little bit? So the ideal area to then go into is something that falls in between these two extremes. And the in-between area, in terms of development psychology, is known as the zone of proximity. And in terms of sports psychology, it is known as the zone of optimal anxiety. So if we then move on to talk about, for example, what this means, or a zone of optimal anxiety, that is basically an area where mentally you know that you can take on a challenge, you can achieve it if either you push yourself that little bit harder, or you know that you need to seek some sort of help or guidance or assistance in order to achieve the goal. So it gives you that little bit of extra nudge in the right direction, I would say, in order to go towards achieving that goal. But the important thing is, you know it's achievable, it just takes a little bit more from you than where you currently are. So a great example of this is something that's often used in the corporate workplace, especially, and that is when we, as managers and directors, set our goals for our teams in terms of what their development goals are going to be for the course of a financial year. And what often happens there is we have what's known as targeted goals, and then we have what's known as stretch goals. So really the target goals are the area of comfort that we would expect an employee to be able to achieve based on their existing skills, their knowledge base, and their experience. Now, the stretch goals are where we then want to empower them to just lean that bit further outside of their existing skills in some way. Now, it could be that they undertake their own learning and development, or they even reach out to some other departments in order to achieve something like that. So when I used to sit within the finance department, the stretch goal used to often be that we would require, for example, that our sales division would bring in some extra revenue above and beyond what they're already, projecting within their sales pipeline. It could be at the other extreme where we would expect our supplier management division to be cutting costs even more or from suppliers outside of what the current sort of rate is that they're doing it. So this could potentially involve them having to work with other teams in order to achieve that. So that's the point of why it's good to be working within the zone of optimal anxiety. That then moves me on to why it's important to keep going outside your comfort zone. There's 4 potential reasons that could apply to yourselves. Do pop down in the comments section if any of this is resonating with you, if you've already done that stretch work in whatever way, be it professional or personal, to come outside your comfort zone, or if you have some tips and tricks of your own to be able to help others to achieve that. So some of the reasons why it's important to come out of your comfort zone. 1, it makes you more productive, as I've just mentioned before, in terms of when we used to set objectives and goals for our team in terms of what they needed to achieve in relation to the overall department and the company. So it definitely makes you more productive. If you just stay within your comfort zone, excuse me, if you stay within your comfort zone, your work is going to become very mundane and you're not really utilizing all your receptors up there within your brain. So the second reason why it's important to come out of your comfort zone is that it makes you more adaptable. Now, another example here is from my perspective as a personal example, is when I had very little notice to suddenly put my places on rent back in the UK in order to have to come to India for certain personal reasons around family bereavements. And I was completely out of my comfort zone, but I had to do it. And I didn't know what I was going to expect here, but I was kind of thrown in at the deep end, and I just managed and went with the flow of what I needed to get done. And what it has done is it's made me very adaptable as a result for when I do return back to the UK later on in this year, because as I go back, my properties are actually out for rent, and so I'll be going back in effect to no place to stay as such. But knowing how I've adapted in different ways here, although residences weren't my issue this time, going back I have a different set of issues. But I know now that I can adapt to change. I've stepped outside my comfort zone in that area, and I've now built up the confidence to handle that area within my life. Excuse me. The third reason for why it's important to step outside the comfort zone is that it will also make you more creative. So some of the things that you may be wanting to do could result in you actually brainstorming more. It could be that you end up reaching out to more people to get that advice and assistance to get you stepping outside the comfort zone. And then the fourth reason is that, excuse me, the fourth reason is basically around the fact that, actually do pop down in the comment section below if you have any other reasons as to why you need to step outside the comfort zone. The fourth reason from my perspective is the importance of learning new skills. Like I mentioned, even with the stretch skills, when I was given certain stretch goals from my bosses back in my corporate days, it ended up actually moving my career development to an area that I hadn't even considered before. So as I left my corporate career, I was head of contract governance and compliance, which was an area I never ever considered before. But those stretch goals I had to achieve resulted in me learning new skills, and skills which I became very comfortable with and that I really enjoyed. And so it was skills that then I thought I want to develop much, much further, and that's the way my career trajectory took me as well. So that's the fourth reason as to why it's important to step outside your comfort zone, because you're opening yourself up to a world of possibilities. Now you might be asking, that sounds great. There's lots of benefits to stepping outside your comfort zone, but how do I go about it without still having that fear inside me? So here goes. I'm going to share with you some techniques, 5 techniques in fact, that should assist you in trying to get there yourself. So technique number 1, suggestion number 1 even, is take baby steps. if you take baby steps, you are, in terms of mentally, your brain is going to start accepting and starting to shift from the fear to actually accepting that this is actually not bad, it's okay, I can handle it. So that's the importance of taking baby steps. If you go from something that you totally fear to the other extreme of just going for it, it could do the opposite, where your brain almost goes into, meltdown, and it's like, I can't handle this. And what it will do is completely push you away from trying again. That being said, suggestion number 2 is fight the fear and do it anyway. Now this, again, it depends on the kind of fear you have. Everyone's comfort zone is personal to them and where you are on your personal development stage and story. But if you're in a position where you can fight the fear and do it anyway, just go for it, because it's kind of a case of if not now, when? And you'll be amazed at how much you have developed as a person from that. That moves me on to suggestion number 3, which is really to treat every experience as having a lesson to learn from it. So, for example, in relation to the second suggestion about fight your fear and do it anyway, when I was traveling on a flight, a lot of people do have fear of flying, and I was on a flight, and to my left-hand side was a lady who was sat near the window. We were in the middle of the plane, and to my right-hand side was sat a gentleman, and we ended up experiencing extreme turbulence. And for someone who's got a fear of flying, that's probably the worst case scenario for them. And yet the gentleman who was on my right, he did the complete opposite of trying to calm her fears by saying, oh my God, planes tend to brake in turbulence, and the worst place to brake tends to be in the middle of a plane. So it was the worst kind of advice or wisdom to share with someone who is really fearful at that time. I could see that she was really fearful and she was on her own, so I actually said, do you mind if I hold your hand just to try and calm you down and keep you safe, which she really appreciated. And the thing is, at the end of the flight, she thanked me, and she actually learned from the experience. It didn't put her off as such, but the thing she learned is that she said in future she's going to pick the time of the year that she chooses to fly, and also she's probably going to fly with someone who is like a buddy for her, just to reassure her with that. So that's suggestion number 3. Suggestion number 4 is become your own coach and do some self-reflective questions. Ask yourself, what is it most that you are fearful of, and how can you make the experience better? So as I've just mentioned, in terms of the lesson learnt in suggestion 3, in that example, the lady, she must have been self-reflecting during that flight of how she didn't want to completely be put off from flying again, but she decided that the lesson learnt was to make things better for her is to fly with another person, and maybe look at a suitable time for flying in the year where there's going to be less turbulence possibly in the air. And then that moves on to the 5th and final suggestion, and the 5th and final suggestion relates to don't do it alone. If you're really struggling but you need to get out of your comfort zone, don't give up. Reach out for either a coach or a mentor, or a friend or a colleague, just someone that you can have a shoulder to lean on, someone that you can bounce ideas off and share wisdom with, just to keep you going. So those are my suggestions. That's a little bit of advice and guidance around stepping outside your comfort zone. I really do hope that it helps yourselves. Do please pop down in the comments whether this has really resonated for you. And the important thing is to just keep going, keep smiling, keep shining. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already subscribed, I would truly appreciate if you feel inclined to do so. Do like, and please share with others who may be struggling with their own comfort zone and trying to step out of it. Thank you once again.